everybody. How are you? I'm really glad that you are here today. My name is Jeanne Jennings. I am presenting Beyond the Hype, Real B2B Email Strategies for AI, Automation, and Inboxing. So I am going to be answering questions at the end, so feel free to use the Q&A to submit your questions and they'll come up. I do have the chat open, but I'm going to be honest. I'm presenting, and so it might be hard to look at the chat, but I am going to try. Um, let's see. I'm really glad to be here today. Thank you, Litmus, so much for inviting me. I spoke last year and really enjoyed it. So it's really, really great to be back. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to talk about where AI fits in your B2B email marketing process, how to use AI to fix or improve your B2B automations, what inbox reality really looks like in 2026, because things are changing again. What else is new? And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about what to measure instead of obsessing over things like opens, which are really irrelevant these days. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Jeanne Jennings. I've been in the industry a very long time. I have my own consulting firm, Email Optimization Shop by Jeanne Jennings. I do strategic and tactical consulting, typically on a project basis. I also do fractional roles, overseeing VP and other marketing channels. I do a lot of workshop training. So if you like what we talk about in this session, definitely check out my workshop trainings because I basically teach everything that I'm going to talk to you about today. And then I also have a blog and a email newsletter. They're both free. So again, if you like what you hear, please sign up so you can follow what's going on. And speaking of those workshop trainings, if you are interested in any of them, reach out to me. Make sure you mention that you were here at my Litmus session, and we can talk about a nice little discount. All right. So let's start with kind of the foundation of the whole presentation, which is that AI isn't a strategy. Now, I love AI. I use AI pretty much every day. I use it for pretty much everything. I really try to use AI whenever I can. But it's not that AI is doing the work instead of me. It's that AI is helping me do the work more productively, more efficiently. So that's what we're really going to talk about. Maybe it's an intern, maybe it's more of a co-pilot, but I really micromanage my AI. It's not the AI doing the work, it's me doing the work, but AI helps me do it faster. So where am I using AI to help my B2B email marketing clients? Where are my clients? Where am I teaching them to use AI? There's three key areas. The first is what I think of as generating structured outputs. So things like FBAs, which are features, benefits, advantages. They're part of the foundation of your marketing. It's something that I used to do with clients a lot when I started in the industry. I would say a lot of companies have kind of gotten away from it. FBAs are sort of in people's heads. They're not written down. AI is a great way to get it out of people's heads onto paper so that you can share it with other people in your organization. It's also a great thing to give to copywriters and outside programmers who are working with you. But so FBAs are really valuable. Also briefs. I find AI is really useful for creative briefs, for any type of document like proposals that you're doing over and over again. AI can help make it more efficient. The second area is speeding up execution of things. So things like a draft of something, or maybe you have one version of an email and you need 10 other versions. This is something that AI is very, very good at. The important thing to remember with all of these is that inputs are really important because better inputs give you better outputs. Finally, I love to use AI for feedback loops. So what do I mean by this? For most of my clients at this point, I have AI agent personas set up that I've created. Those agents are created to understand and behave just like the target audience, and we will run marketing by them before we actually launch it to get their feedback. What's good about this? What's not so good about this? What's missing? And I find that it's actually very effective at that. Initially, I thought it was like a party trick. It's not. This is also a good way to do stress testing of ideas. And just really, it's kind of like an at-will, interview or focus group where you can go and test things. So it's really, really valuable. The other thing that I didn't say that I probably should is for everything I'm talking about here, I'm not using the free ChatGPT. I have a paid version of ChatGPT, and I actually create custom agents for everything that I do. The benefit of a custom agent is you only have to train it once. It can get very good at what your expectations are. So it's almost now like I have a team of AI agents that I work with to do things like you're seeing here. So, as I mentioned, AI is like an intern. I often tell people that I micromanage it or I work iteratively with it. Let's look at some examples. Now, this is a little small, so bear with me. I have some blown up versions of this, but what structured AI can actually produce. So on the left here, we have a one-step non-custom AI where we basically said, hey, can you create an email for this product? This is actually a B2B case study. It is uh, uh, Ted Lasso's favorite barbecue, and they sell it frozen so you can order it. On the right, we have a version of the email that I created with my iterative process with a custom marketing strategy AI. So let's start by just taking a look at the top of it. As you can see, the one on the left, the one step, I mean, it's fine. It tells you what it's introducing. If you look, it has a list of some features and a little bit of benefits. It's not bad. But if you look at the one on the right, we're going much more into detail on the features, benefits, advantages. It's really focusing in on the B2B corporate gift side of things. If we take a look at the second half of this, we can see that in the first one, it really defaulted to this offer that I hadn't given it to try to sell. Whereas in the second one, we're really, again, focusing on the features, benefits, advantages, focusing on the support, focusing on the things that matter. So this is really the difference. Can you get an email with just general AI and a single prompt? Sure, but it's probably not going to be very good. And what we're seeing is as more and more companies start using AI, this kind of on the left AI slop, it's not terrible, but it's not great, is what is getting people not to respond, to stop opening your emails, all sorts of stuff like that. Ah, I see I have some barbecue fans in the area. We don't want to get into that KC versus NC fight today. I love them all, just for the record. I'm agnostic on email platforms. I'm also fairly agnostic on barbecue. So here's the thing with B2B. Typically, you're likely not selling flip-flops. Flip-flops are easy. B2B tends to be a little more complicated sale, a little harder sale. And so that's what we want to keep in mind. So when you look at things like the traditional sales funnel, right? This looks great. This is so easy, except very few people move this way. Buying is not necessarily a straight line. And time, which is how most automation has been done up to this point, that's not intent. Just because someone's been talking to you for a month or three doesn't mean they've moved from awareness to consideration and are ready to buy. And sometimes, especially in the B2B world, when there's more than one stakeholder involved in a decision, you're going to go back and forth. There'll be an awareness and consideration, and then they'll say, we need to bring somebody else in, and then that person's in awareness and consideration. So it's not as cut and dry as a lot of people make it out to be. And if you work in B2B, I know that you know that, but that's some place where AI can actually really help you. But again, you have to do it right. So what do I mean by that? So last year I worked with a B2B financial organization. So they were reaching out to businesses to help with their finances, obviously. When I got there, they had a lot of automated series. They were all time-based. When, one day this goes out and then a month later this goes out and then a month later, what we did was we actually turned that whole series on its head. We focused on a value first nurture. So what do we mean by that? I've written about this in my blog if you're interested. The idea being that we want to provide value without a purchase in order to get them to open. And this is especially true if you have a long sales cycle, because if you just send emails that say buy, 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 after a while, people are going to stop opening. So one of my favorite value first nurtures is an email that we send out on National Coffee Day. It has some history of coffee, some kind of fun facts and stats. And then it says, why don't you grab a cup and give us a call and let's talk about your finances. So that's what I mean. There's another one that we did that's really fun. It's about it's National Juggling Day, and there's a video to teach you how to juggle just simple three balls. But again, the idea of if you're juggling your finances, if you're trying to make things work, call us and we can make this easier for you. So the idea of if they can open it and get a smile or something of value, you're more likely to keep them opening. And if you have a long sales cycle, that's very, very important. Second thing, when I went in, there was escalating pressure in the series. It became more and more dire. You need to call us. You need this. This is important. We moved that to stage-based messaging. So we literally looked at, are they in awareness? Are they in decision? Where are they? And then the messaging is appropriate to that. If they move back and forth, we move back and forth. Pressuring someone to make a sale, it's just not necessarily a good way to go about it. So we really try to stay away from that. And again, try to find value, try to keep them engaged because they're interested in what we have to offer. Finally, I don't know about you, but a lot of these B2B clients I work with, when they come to me, they're like, wow, I think we have a deliverability problem because our open rates are in the low single digits and like nobody clicks. Those are drop-offs. They have decided to ghost you. So what we did with this series is we actually took steps to preempt that. So we aligned the cadence to the engagement level. If we see that someone's falling off, they're not as interested, we try to re-engage them, but at the same time, we're going to knock back on the cadence because we don't want them to feel bombarded. And it only takes, what, 2 or 3 irrelevant emails for someone to decide not to open anymore. So really working to stave that off and to try to make sure that we keep people engaged. So this was a big part of this case study. Now let's talk about something else that's actually kind of having a moment right now. Is anyone else sort of pretending that the promotion tabs doesn't matter? Like, ooh, I'm just not going to think about it. Maybe if I don't think about it, it'll go away. It's not going to go away. And this is your reset. So we're going to talk a little bit about some new realities we're facing in the inbox in 2026, and we're also going to talk about how to address them. So the first is sorting. So you've probably noticed Gmail was the first to go with tabs or categories. Apple's followed suit. Microsoft's doing some of it now. They're actually looking at the emails as they come in and determining what they are. Now, I hear a lot of people who are upset because they're not in the inbox. This is not something to be upset about. First of all, it's out of your control. But secondly, if you read the definition of what goes in the primary inbox is for personal correspondence, has been, always, continues. The promo tab is still the inbox. It's not the inbox. It's just a separate section. What I tell a lot of my B2B clients is just because you know that your prospect is going to be home throwing a 4th of July party doesn't mean that you want to show up at their house and try to pitch them during the party. And that's kind of what trying to force yourself into the primary inbox is like. So don't do that. Just recognize that you're going to go in the promo. That's where it's supposed to be, and focus your efforts on making an impact there. The second thing is AI summaries. Oh my goodness. This is a big deal. And right now, again, it's kind of out of our control. I do think that it's either going to have to get better or they're going to have to stop doing it because sometimes they're just really off base. But again, you want to think about how is it going to summarize it, and you want to make sure that the content in your email, there's content there for them to summarize appropriately. I'd say the biggest issue here is people who send all image emails because there's nothing there to summarize. Don't do that. The last is stacking. So stacking is really interesting. Stacking is where they're going to group all of your messages together. And stacking does a couple things. One, if you're one of those people who's sending like a resend to people who didn't open, or you send a lot of the same emails over and over again, this is going to be a problem because it's going to look really redundant when it's stacked. The other thing that this is doing is it's bringing older emails to the forefront sometimes. So you want to make sure, which has always been a best practice, you want to make sure that the links in your emails are still working, even if it's a month or 2 months after the email's gone out. If the offer is dead, it's no longer available, make sure there's some other offer that they can see if they click on that. So how do we win in the promotions tab in 2026? Well, it's actually based on some key principles that we've been talking about for a really, really long time. So the first thing would be a predictable cadence. You want to make sure that you are sending on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis. What you don't want to do is send like 5 emails this week and then not send them emails for a month. The spikes are not going to help you with your inbox placement. They're also not going to help you with your readers. If there's a predictable cadence, they kind of know it's gonna come in, you're much more likely to get the open. So try to do the every Wednesday or the every first Tuesday of the month or something that's kind of predictable. The second one, recognizable value. We have been talking about relevance in the inbox for as long as I've been in the industry, which is a very long time. That's really important. There's got to be something in there, preferably, some value, even if they aren't ready to buy right now, to get them to open and to want to get these emails. So make sure that you're not sending the email just to send the email. Make sure there's some recognizable value there for the recipients. And the final one is something that you're going to get if you do the first two, engagement consistency. More and more, the mailbox providers are looking at this. How are people engaging with you? If you can send recognizable value on a predictable cadence and they engage, that is the best thing you can do for your engagement. So think about doing those things. If you're not providing value, if you don't have recognizable cadence, it's going to be much harder for you to get that engagement frequency. All right. The next one is really important as well. We want to make sure that we're looking at the right data. When I talk to so many people, it's just amazing to me. And it's important that you're looking at the right data and that you understand what that is for your business, because it may be different than for somebody else's business. What doesn't matter as much anymore? Opens. Hopefully you are familiar with Apple MPP. It's been a couple years now since they put it into place. The stated reason was to protect the privacy of their users, but basically what that means is anytime an email is delivered to an Apple inbox, it is automatically opened almost immediately. And then what I'm seeing is even that way, there's a lot of static. So even though it looks like it's opened, you can't guarantee that it's opened. The other problem I'm seeing now is a lot of the big email platforms will filter out the MPP opens so that you get a cleaner number. The problem with that is that if a person, a real human, opens one of those MPP opens later, it's still not going to look as a human open. So you really can't tell. Opens have always had a margin of error. I've written about this on my blog. Now that margin of error has gone from like this to like that. So again, just you can't count on them. Maybe if they drop off really bad, that means you have a deliverability issue because Apple MPP does not open emails that go to the spam folder. But otherwise, the opens really don't matter much anymore. They're really not much help. The second thing is those clicks without context. So you want to make sure that if you have links in your email, they're going to places that you want to send people. Just because you can click to have people click over to something doesn't mean that you should. Oftentimes I see people linking to third-party reports and other things. Just because you reference it doesn't mean you have to link to it. Make sure that the clicks are taking people to places where they can move along that path toward a sale, whether that's a white paper or additional information. Make sure that you're keeping them on the path and not sending them off in some other odd direction. So what actually matters in B2B? So the first thing is engagement over time. And this goes directly to what we talked about earlier with watching the frequency, adjusting it based on their engagement. Typically in B2B, you have a long sales cycle. And so you want to make sure that you don't lose people along the way. So you want to watch that engagement over time. If it looks like someone's starting to back away or to ghost you, a re-engagement campaign can be really valuable. You want to make sure that you can keep them engaging with you over time. The second is that conversion velocity. So what I always say to my clients is when we create an automation, we definitely want it to keep them on the path toward conversion. The other thing that a really good automated series can do for you is it can actually speed up that conversion. Because if you can get them to sign that contract next month instead of 2 months from now, that's money in your pocket sooner. The time value of money, it's really important. So that's the other thing that a really good B2B automation can do for you is increase or get those people to convert sooner. The next thing you want to look at is pipeline contribution. So how much are they contributing to the pipeline? Are the automations doing what they need to do? Are they bringing people in at the top, but also are they pulling people through so they get through to the bottom? So pipeline contribution is very important. The other thing that's important is to have sales feedback loops. So how is this working with the sales team? Is the sales team on board with the marketing messages and the automation? You want to make sure those two things are working together. Whenever I go into a B2B situation where we have a sales team, which we usually do, I always make sure I'm talking with them. They need to not only support the email, but they need to help you define the content of the email so it's matching what they're doing in the sales process. So very, 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 very important. Um, all right. So let's jump back and let's talk a little bit more about AI. So where can AI help you with these metrics? Well, there's a couple things you need to know. The first is that AI is actually really good at math. Does anybody remember when ChatGPT first came out? I had people telling me that it couldn't do math. And so for the longest time, I was double and triple checking things. I got to tell you, it can do math. But what it can't do is decide what really matters. It's not really very good at that. And that is, I would say, good news for all of us, because that means that one more reason why humans still need to be involved. It just isn't good at telling you what matters. But I am good at telling you what matters. So this is another case study. This is a B2B software as a service organization that I worked with last year. They had an email series that was going to people who were using their free trial. It wasn't converting very well. You can see here the old series is on the left. We actually put a new series in and tested it against the old series. We saw over a 300% lift in revenue per 1,000 emails sent. So that's a lot more money. What we saw is not only did the number of conversions go up, but we had more people signing up for the year, the annual plan, rather than the monthly plan, which they preferred. It's a better commitment and you lock the revenue in. So there's really a lot to be said. Now, you notice I'm not showing you numbers about open rates or click-through rates because truthfully, those don't really matter. You can jigger those so they look better, but at the end of the day, if they don't turn into a conversion, if they don't turn into revenue, it's really not worth anything to you. So you want to make sure you're focusing on these bottom line metrics like conversion and revenue rather than things like opens and clicks. 4 keys to success for B2B marketers in 2026. AI is a tool, not a strategy. Remember that. Automation needs to follow the buyers. The buyers aren't going to try to keep up with your automation. Inbox realities aren't optional. The things we talked about, they're happening, they're out of your control. All you can do is make the best of it. Human email still wins. So email that is created by humans that has human input is still what is doing the job in the inbox. Leaving you with a parting thought. Good email feels intentional, and that's true even when it's automated. It always needs to feel intentional. People need to feel like it's relevant and it matters. And that's, I think, the most important thing to remember. So that is all I had for the presentation part of this, but we have 5 minutes left for questions. So let me start. There's one in there now. Go ahead and add some more. If your email automation is not generating conversions or form fills, what would you look to change? Messaging, CTA, etc. Yeah, this is a great question. So there's a method I learned that I really liked. What I would do is I would create a conversion tree. So I would basically take a look at what you're doing and figure out where the weakness is. Where are you losing people? When I was with consulting for Verizon, we had an email series and it wasn't delivering as well as we'd hoped. And so I basically dug in and I did a granular analysis. And what I found was it was driving a very high number of people, high percentage of people to the website. So that was good. But that's where we were losing people. Very few of those people who hit the website for this product were filling out a form to learn more. When I dug into it more, what I found out is the people that did fill out the form, most of them had viewed this video that was on that page below the fold. So the first thing I did was move that video up above the fold so that more people would see it. And immediately we saw a higher percentage of people who landed on that page going on to fill out the form. So that was something that was strong. So the next thing we did was we actually moved that video to the email itself. Now it was just a screenshot. So when they clicked on the screenshot, they would go to the website and it would play. But that's really what you want to do. You want to kind of look at, when I say a conversion tree, basically just, all the way down each little step, what percentage of people are completing it and seeing where you're weak. And then when you look at what's going on, the qualitative part of things, you can usually figure out how to fix it. So I hope that helped. Let's see. Here's another one from Cole. How important is excluding dormant inactive contacts for deliverability? This is a great question. So my thing that I like to do with dormant or inactive contacts is decrease the frequency and see if you can get them back. Typically, we'll also run a reactivation campaign. If you have a lot of dormant or inactive accounts on your list, you definitely need to decrease the frequency or it will hurt you. But mailing to those people once a year or once a month is probably fine. So it's important to, I would say, not necessarily include, but decrease the frequency. Now, if someone's been dormant for 2 or 3 years, again, you have to think through, is it a car purchase? Because few of us purchase cars more than once in 2 or 3 years. So you need to kind of tie it to your sales cycle and how long things usually take. But yeah, in general, you want to keep it clean, but you don't want to stop mailing to them. You just want to decrease the frequency. I hope that helps, Cole. All right, one from Christopher Deming. For B2B, what is the first thing you would do to increase high quality subscribers in the consulting industry? The first thing I would do is do a complete audit of the whole subscription opt-in process. What are we offering them? What are the promises? Um, and uh, see if we can beef that up. I think too many people rely on things that say like, hey, we have a newsletter, sign up here. Nobody needs another newsletter. But if you're going to give them information that's going to help them do their job better, enjoy a hobby better, improve their life in some way, they're totally going to sign up. So the first thing I would do is I would start at that very end point and see what you're offering them. And then again, I would do a conversion tree. I would figure out how many people who land on the site end up converting. Typically, you should be able to get anywhere from 5 to 50% of your site traffic to sign up for email first time visitors, not repeat visitors. And then step backwards. It could also be where you're trying to find them. If you're not going to where those people are gathering, if you're not in the right place to attract qualified, that would hurt you. That's a big question. I would say that's more of a project than a question, but I hope that I gave you a good starting point. So there we go. I think we have a little less than a minute, but I'm happy to answer questions. And please feel free to reach out to me. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. Um, and yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for coming. There's been a lot of good sessions, so I really appreciate all of you coming to mine. Woohoo! Everybody stay warm. It's very cold in DC. Oh, vinegar or tomato. I'm a Kansas City barbecue girl. That's like my flavor. We used to have a restaurant here in Georgetown that had like 8 kinds of sauces on the table. They had the mustard based and the vinegar and the tomato, and I'm a Kansas City girl. But really any kind of barbecue is good. It's always a good day when there's barbecue involved. Be safe, stay warm, stay well, everybody. Thanks for joining.